Paljon kiitoksia, Ella. And hyvää huomenta to everyone in Finland and everyone who's connecting through digital channels. Good morning. I want to thank Greenstep to start with for inviting me over here today, as this is actually my first ever external event in Finland. And in case you're wondering, yes, we are settling in quite finely, albeit with some funny experiences already in this country. And Tore will, I guess, forgive me for sharing one which involves him. So when he invited us over a couple of weeks ago to his place, his message literally read through WhatsApp, "Maybe we can smoke something together." Now, I know the Netherlands has a reputation, right? But you can imagine that this made me think twice about the intentions of Tore. So luckily now I know that here in Finland, you smoke your own fish. So, coming to Finland, totally excited about that anecdote. I have to remember to move my own slides here. So going back to the topic indeed, sustainability has many faces and is a very, very wide and widely discussed topic. And there are many lenses you can use when looking at sustainability. And I want to focus here today on the increasing relevance for business results and business outcomes. I wanted to start with this. So given that you're, I think, a well-informed audience, you may know Peter Bakker, who is the CEO and president of the World Business Council for Sustainable Development in Switzerland, based in Switzerland, but globally active. And in this quote, I think he brings exactly the edge that I want in the room. He says, there's now almost 3,000 listed companies that have set net zero targets or comparable science-based targets around their emissions. So that would go, make you say, pretty good. But then he continues that the World Business Council's assessment is that less than 15% of these companies have actual operating plans in place to deliver. Less than 15%, and I think that's pretty serious. So why is this relevant to me? And I want to go back to us moving to Finland. You see here a picture collage of our move. This is exactly 4 weeks ago. So what made me at the age of 52, with my career and background, decide to convince my husband Robin, my 10-year-old daughter Sarah, and to pick up our 2 cats to move to Finland? Well, there are predominantly 2 reasons. One is indeed all about the Fortum strategy, the company that approached me. I'll say a little bit more about this, but I want to start with another reason. So when Fortum approached me, I started reading into Fortum's role in society and about the Nordics in general. And I was totally fascinated by how already for decades, the Nordics are delivering the evidence that you can combine economic growth and human progress with lower emissions year on year. And I was like, why don't I know about this? You know, I'm not living that far away. I wasn't living that far away in the Netherlands. So what are the Nordic companies doing that is actually well on its way to solve maybe the biggest challenge that our planet is facing? So more specifically about Fortum's strategy then, I read this and I thought this is a credible strategy. And everything in me said, I want to help by being part of the leadership and the management of that company to make this come true. Why is it credible? I mean, if you look at it in short, the ambition to transform our own operations to carbon neutral. You know, looking deeper into what do they mean? You know, how exactly are they planning to do this? Secondly, strengthen and grow in CO2-free power generation. Now, that's the silver bullet that everybody's looking for. But again, I saw in Fortum a company that was well on its way to think about how this can be achieved in a fast and nimble way. And then leverage the strong position in gas to enable the energy transition. And this is all about Fortum having acquired the majority of shares of Uniper, a Germany-based important company. It's quite big, but it's big in gas, and it's also still big in coal. And that coal strategy, again, was fascinating to me to see what do you do with that. We know that switching from coal to gas is one of the fastest levers we have today to make the energy transition happen faster. But of course, I mean, there's so much more technologies developing around us that also are relevant for Fortum. And then lastly, partner with the industrial and infrastructure customers is all about how do we help others to decarbonize. And so I thought this is credible, this is achievable, and given the size of the company and its strategy, I think this can be achieved. So I wanted to be part of that change. A month into my job, well, actually 2 months, I started the 1st of June, we had our the quarterly results, or first half of the year results, shared with the world last week. And I was pleased to see, and I'm going to say honestly, I mean, I've just joined, so none of this is yet my doing. But I see a determined execution of the transformation strategy. I want to point at 2 things here. One is a very determined path of divestments of portfolio assets that are not that relevant anymore for the future strategy. So Stockholm Exergy, the Baltic district heating business, and some of our solar power in India, divested and then generating 5.2 billion. That's significant because this is indeed as much about investment as it is about indeed what you sell off. And in combination with those divestments in the last year and a half, indeed a accelerated decarbonization with evidence and proof points that were made public. Firstly, in Russia, well on our way to have an end to our coal-fired generation in 2022. That's next year already. And then acceleration of our coal exit in through the Uniper assets, which was already in the planning for Uniper, driven by regulations, etc. But that acceleration, as you can see in this chart, in the last year and a half, as part of Fortum Group's strategy, is a fact in Germany, in the UK. And this means balancing growth. And to me, it is all about balancing growth. It's about delivering the credible returns to keep investors and shareholders with you while you are decarbonizing, and maybe more and more because you are decarbonizing your business. I won't dwell on this slide for a long time. It's really, I mean, some of you may be well informed about taxonomy. It's a chic word to basically say classification. And the EU has been working for a long time already on taxonomy for the European economies to classify economic activities that they see as credibly reducing emissions and having a positive environmental impact. So for Fortum, it shortly means that most of our business in hydro, wind, hydrogen, biomass, nuclear, solar, CCS, and hazardous waste is already aligned. You know, we can check the requirements of the EU and say, yes, these economic activities can be classified as indeed addressing climate change and sustainable. But we have still a way to go when it comes to our gas businesses and nuclear, because the EU has not made its mind up yet about taxonomy for those sectors. And we're expecting that any moment, probably in the second half of this year. You see also that Fortum's growth CAPEX predominantly goes to renewables, then hydrogen and clean gas, environmental and security of supply, and some other activities like indeed the venturing capital that we have, and innovation and digitalization. Now, I've been telling why this all is very relevant to me. This was what made me come to Finland. Why should it be relevant to you? You know, when I was approached, it was early in the year, And already then, also because of my job in Shell, which is a company I appreciate a lot, it has a big global role to play in helping to drive the energy transition. And it has a strategy in doing that. So it was already quite obvious to me that there's a sense of urgency that nobody can deny. But since I said yes to Fortum, there have been two milestones that I want to pull out here. One is indeed the EU has now further deepened its activities in regulating the whole space for climate change, helping to deliver their Green Deal, Green Recovery package, and the Europe Fit for 55 package that was very recently presented, shows us indeed that taxonomy is now further embedded, and it's now broadened to so all EU regulations are broadening to all sectors. So this is beyond energy. It is about agriculture, aviation, transportation. It's about this basically all activities in the economy are covered by it. So the EU is further on top of this and getting really serious about driving this with high pace. Second, and this was only 2 weeks ago, where the International Panel for Climate Change came out with what has been received as its most important product so far. So they assessed 14,000 scientific reports about climate change and came to a couple of very sobering conclusions, which one is that actually it's undeniable now with what they have brought as evidence that human activity drives global warmth. And that some of the impact of that is irreversible, unfortunately, like the rise of the water levels, the ocean levels. I don't know about you, but when I grew up, I thought floodings that are devastating with human lives lost were happening in Bangladesh. That was my very vivid memory. You know, it was, and I thought, you know, it's what a pity. It's the geography that these people live in, their economies, their governments, their governance. I never thought that in my life I would experience that in the heartland of Europe we would have floods and floodings because of climate change that make people die in Germany, in Belgium. I never thought that in my lifetime I would see the temperature rise within Europe, Sicily to be very precise, to 48.8 degrees. This is not only happening, it's happening so much faster than we all anticipated. And the IPCC says some of it can be reversed if we manage to indeed deliver the plans that all these 3,000 plus companies and governments have pledged to. And if we do that, we can stabilize at 1.5 degrees. In this slide, as you see, it's the blue line basically where you, if we manage to deliver the plans, we can stabilize at 1.5 degrees. It's almost a fact. It is a fact, according to the IPCC, that we will reach that temperature rise. But we can avoid that steep red curve, as you see in this one, which would take us, if we don't do anything about it, to actually about 4 and plus degrees global warmth. So net zero commitments are expanding, which is the good news, but stakeholders now are calling for real action. So all of this is putting more pressure on everybody, especially politicians and regulators. But it's not just the regulators. As you see here, I mean, this is a picture where we see the commitments, which looks pretty good. So from GDP and population perspective, vast majorities have already said we're committed to do something about this problem. And the regulatory framework, I'm not even going to go through this. By the way, I will share my slides with you so you can read it at your own pace. But what this says, it is very complex. It is going to get more complex. On the EU taxonomy to my left here, but in the middle, the financial reporting and the non-financial reporting are getting more and more complex. But they're also, I mean, they're getting more demanding. You know, so the whole measurement, reporting, and verification is going to be regulated. So, in my own words, if you have a purpose and you made that promise, there's actually nowhere to hide anymore because this is here now and it's getting stronger and stronger. Stakeholders' expectations, many stakeholders here. I want to call out 3 of them. You can see here, I looked at who are the key stakeholders that influence our business results, and of course there are governments, NGOs, more and more the judiciary, consumers, capital markets, investors. But the 3 I want to spend a couple of minutes more on are actually these 3. So investors, let me just pull out only that 37 trillion in assets that are now committed to deliver the outcomes that the world so desperately needs. And investors will need to see proof to manage their financial risk. So investors will be looking for evidence of companies who are actually doing as they say. The judiciary, 2 very important and I think quite groundbreaking developments here. You could call them, more activist judges, but one is indeed in Heathrow, the airport in the UK, the airport was stopped from expanding because it did not take into account the climate impacts. And second, a more recent one is the Shell court case in the Netherlands, where judges basically said you are violating human rights through your business activities. And they said that before to the Dutch government, and now it was directed to a company. So we're yet to see where that goes and whether that verdict stands. But I think it's a cutting edge of what the world can expect. This is all stakeholders are firming up here. Then, last here, the capital markets, proof for cost of capital that we already see that the cost of capital now is higher for those companies who have the lowest ESG, so environmental, social and governance scoring already. So you see the cost of capital going up for those companies who cannot deliver the evidence, and the credit ratings are also being impacted. Well, I'm coming to an end here, and I want to wrap up again once going back to the World Business Council for Sustainable Development. And this is again a quote from them, where they say, if you position your company well, so if you indeed not just think, I have a good purpose, I am committed, and I'm going to tell the world that I really want to do this. No, it's if you position your company well by being able to truly integrate ESG in a standardized, materiality-based way into your performance measurement, then you will see that capital markets will reward you by giving you a lower cost of capital. So I want you to stop, pause and think about this now. And the question I would like to leave everyone in the room with, if you have a role to play in the company finance indeed, is that you ask yourselves, how are you reflecting the ESG risk in your total risk assessment, and how much of that are you already translating into your annual report? So if you don't feel uneasy at this point, I clearly have failed. If you have a role to play in these companies, I hope you feel the edge, and I hope you sense the call for action, and that you're not a bystander, you're a player in this, as we all are. Thank you.